Saint Ignatius was a man most remembered for founding the Jesuit order of priests and brothers. He used the gifts of understanding, counsel, and piety throughout his ministry. Saint Ignatius demonstrated the gift of piety often in his life. He was a humble person who at one point gave away all of his fine clothes to a poor man. Over time in his life, Ignatius gained a greater respect for God and all people. Saint Ignatius also contained counsel. Ignatius created what were known as his spiritual exercises after much time reflecting in a cave. He guided his friends and early members of the Jesuit order to reflect on their relationship to God using these spiritual exercises. Once the order was created, they went around the world teaching people about Jesus. After Ignatius gave up all of his belongings, he was said to spend much of his time in a cave and was blessed with powerful insights into himself and about who God was for him through meditation. Saint Ignatius used his gift of understanding to help other people realize their relationship with God. Inigo López de Onés y Loyola was born in Spain in 1291. He was born to a high-class family that was very privileged. Inigo's passion was personal glory. He dressed fancy, had a short temper, and was a skilled swordsman. His short temper even got him into a street brawl, and he was convicted of a crime when he was young, but he was not punished due to his status. Inigo soon joined the army and changed his name to Ignatius, a more mature version of Inigo. Due to his skill and talent, Ignatius earned promotions and eventually commanded his own troops. In 1521, Ignatius was defending the town of Pamplona against French attack when he was struck by a cannonball in the legs. One of his legs was injured slightly, but the other was broken badly. The broken bone in his leg was not properly set, and it protruded in an unusual fashion. Ignatius' perception of himself as a brave, chivalrous, and handsome man was completely destroyed. Ignatius insisted that the leg be rebroken and reset, which was a very painful process in a world without anesthetic. Ignatius limped for the rest of his life due to his leg injury. While he recovered, Ignatius passed time by reading books about the life of Christ and the lives of the saints. He began to reflect on God and how God played a role in his life. He realized that God was leading him through his feelings and drawing him towards a brand new, humble way of life. Once he could walk, Ignatius began his pilgrimage to Jerusalem. On the way, he gave up his fine clothes to a poor man and hung up his sword and dagger. He did this as a sign that he was beginning his new life. On the way, Ignatius stopped in the town of Manresa and ended up staying for about 10 months. While he was there, he worked at the local hospital for the poor in exchange for some shelter and a bed. While in Manresa, Ignatius owned no belongings and begged for his food in town. Ignatius spent much of his free time in a cave while he was in Manresa, meditating. According to Xavier.edu, Ignatius was blessed with powerful insights into himself and about who God was for him while he was in the cave. He recorded his experiences from his reflections in the cave into a notebook. These reflections and the experiences he had became known as his spiritual exercises. To this day, Jesuits use these spiritual exercises to help themselves gain a deep relationship with God. After Ignatius left the town of Manresa, he attended many schools to better his education so he could teach others about God. This decision to go to school came after being questioned by the Spanish Inquisition 3 separate times about whether he was qualified to teach others about God. Ignatius started his schooling at a free public school that taught Latin and grammar to young children, and eventually ended up attending the University of Paris and earning a master's degree. At the University of Paris, Ignatius gathered people together, and they became a group called the Friends of the Lord. Ignatius was the leader of this group, and they used the spiritual exercises to guide them. Eventually, the group took a pilgrimage to Rome to get approval from the Pope to become a religious order. The Pope accepted their proposition, and they became known as the Society of Jesus, eventually called the Jesuits. Ignatius was elected the first leader of the Jesuits, and served until his death 16 years after its founding. He sent his companions all over the world to counsel, teach, and serve people about God. Numerous schools started to open, run by the Jesuits, teaching a religion alongside the traditional subjects. St. Ignatius died on July 31st, 1556, but the order of the Jesuits still lives on today, with the same values it started with. St. Ignatius was canonized by Pope Gregory XV on March 12, 1622, and his feast day is on July 31st. He is the patron saint of soldiers and retreats. St. Ignatius lived a very eventful and holy life. He used the gifts of understanding, counsel, and piety to help him teach the people around him. He showed the fruits of generosity, faithfulness, goodness, and kindness in his works. St. Ignatius was a good model of what a teacher should aspire to be. He emphasized helping people learn about God and the relationship they have with Him. The Holy Spirit influenced many people through St. Ignatius, and his legacy continues to influence people through the 28 Jesuit colleges that are in existence today.